very fitting. I was gonna start this evening by talking about my book of Dumb. I've got a book that I'm putting together about dumb stuff that I've actually that I've done in my life. And one of them was a few weeks ago, about 3 months ago. I was down in Egypt on a tour with Anthony Browder and Atlantis Browder. And we're at Saqqara by the Step Pyramid. And we then left the Step Pyramid. I went around there, you know, put some, doing this, doing that. And then we went down to see a tomb that's by there. Wonderful place. It was showing you the mischief that the officials there, they've been washing the color out of the images on the wall. And it was clear there were still certain places that you see these guys, the carvings had actual locks. They were dark brown in complexion, and that mischief was there. And, you know, so we were looking on this thing. And then what happened was, on the trip, I was looking after a couple of elders, 2 elders. And we'd just come from the Giza pyramid, the Great Pyramid. So we'd been in there. It was the first visit we did. And so climbing up inside the pyramid, it was quite difficult. You know, I'm not getting any younger. And what happened was, the guide said, "Oh, if you want to go inside a pyramid, there's a smaller pyramid over there. This is at Saqqara by this tomb. There's a smaller pyramid over there." He said, "You can go and have a look in there, and it'll be easier." So I go down into this thing, and I look, and I'm looking around. I see all these hieroglyphs there, and I'm thinking to myself, "This is deep." Yeah. So I take 3 pictures and come back out. Then I'm sat on the coach, and I'm, wait a minute. I think I said to Tony, I said, what pyramid of Unas? I went, oh my gosh. Here's a thing from my book of Dumb. That what I was looking at was the pyramid text, the oldest religious text in the world.
Teach.
And yours truly went in there, treating it like I spent more time in a shopping mall over this country looking at certain pictures on the wall or whatever. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so this, you see me behind, you see 2 circular logos. Yes. And I'm sat between the 2 circular logos. So if you use your imagination, I feel a bit of a, sorry, never mind. I won't use language like that. But the pyramid text is an interesting thing, because what we actually have is, I've been doing the new version of the lineage timeline. So since I came back, constructive criticism, Atlantis Browder said she preferred the old version of the timeline. I think it's the 3rd edition of it, which I did about 10 years ago, than the one that I did in 2017. And what I've done with this new version, I've been working on it. So I said to Atlantis, I'm going to make it the best I can make it, and whatever. I went up to Birmingham to an art exhibition, and I was sat in this art space with my friend who had some photographs in the exhibition, and I said, this is like my art space at college. He said, what art space? I said, my art space, where I did my art. He said, what, he said, what, you did art? I said, yeah, I'm an art teacher by training. That's my thing, graphics, art. And it's another rendition from my book of Dumb, because instead of approaching the timeline as an art project, I'd approached it as like it was a visual aid to teaching. So I got on that. I thought it was going to take me 5 days. Brother Andrew, 5 days. I thought it was going to, how long? 5 days. So then 4 months later, I just finished it yesterday and sent it down to my printer for him to put together. And I think it's a better job. I think it is. So the celestial sky is there. And so what I did whilst I was waiting, I put together a PowerPoint with They Say. They Say is a song by Duke Ellington and Herbert Martin. It was for a musical about South Africa. It was never, ever, ever produced. It wasn't actually produced, but Tony Browder turned me onto the lyrics. And I said to him, well, is the tune there? And he said, no, it was never done. But what happened was, me being me, I think I was just doing some kind of research online one night. I was looking, and I decided to dig in on this thing. And I went to Duke Ellington's funeral. And at the funeral, do you remember there's a film called To Kill a Mockingbird? And the actor who played Tom Robinson, who was the so-called Negro who was accused of rape in the story.
Yeah.
The actor who played him sang at Duke Ellington's funeral this song, They Say. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I sent it to Tony Brown, and Tony said, where the hell did you get that? I said, persistence, I think it is. But let me just say the lyrics. They say that people turn into stars when they die and live again in the midnight sky, that the summer rains are the tears they cry, that the wind in the plain is their lullaby. To the ones they love and a big goodbye, they say they keep a bright and ever watchful eye. They say that people go there when they die and turn into stars, and so will I.
Woo!
That's for Sister Michelle. I got this beautiful picture of her here that you put on. I took a photograph. I put it in the presentation. So that is after the pyramid text, the pyramid of Unas at Saqqara. I'm praying that when she transitions fully, she'll join our celestial sky. We'll see her every night, shining bright with that beautiful smile she's got. And peace and love to her husband and her son, and to her family who are missing her.
Brilliant, Brother Paul. Brilliant, Brother Paul.
So coming into the presentation, when you called me last week, I was thinking, what can I talk about? What is there something there? And on the new timeline, I've got this thing about the flow. The flow, what's the flow? The flow's epigenetics. The funny thing is, this thing, epigenetic, people are talking epigenetics now. And it's like, well, we've been talking this since the early 1990s. I was blessed to work with Dr. Patricia Newton, Sister Patricia Newton, God rest her soul. And she was like the substitute for Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, because I wanted Dr. Welsing to come in God rest her soul as well. I wanted her to come to our conference in Manchester in 1994. But she asked me a question. When I phoned her up, she said, what are you doing to protect your venture against global white supremacy? And I was like, do you know that song, Brother Andrew? Another one from my book of Dom. This book of Dom of mine's getting thick. You understand? So what happened is, she said this thing, and so she said, well, because you can't answer that, I'm not going to come to your conference. So I said, okay, sister, all right. We spoke for about another hour. No shifting on it. Very strong, sister. No shifting on it. But then what I found out was that when she'd done a trip to London previously, people had not paid her. And that was a contributing factor as well to why she didn't want to come. Now, we got Pat Newton instead. So Pat Newton, before Joy de Groot, was doing what she called post-traumatic slavery disorder, not syndrome, disorder, because she was working it into the myth of Osiris Set. So making out the disorder. So order is a quality of Ma'at, but she was actually saying disorder to talk about Isfet. So what we actually did, I remember doing a cover for her, and it was all the body of Osiris cut into the 14 pieces. Now, let me just give you a simple thing here. Many of us, the basic fundamental knowledge. I love the fact that today, Brother Andrew, you were talking about, the standards of education and giving opportunities for the Leaders Academy but I'm a great believer in foundation knowledge, simply because the foundation knowledge lets you make sense of what's around you. Because as you probably know, the ancient African education system has as revealed by Schwaller de Lubitz, who was based for 15 years at the Luxor Temple, or Temple of Waset, he said that the 5 aspects of the ancient African education system, first of all, was unity with nature. Now, let me just break that. Unity with nature, the word nature, NCR, if you take the consonants without the vowels there, that's the word for God in Kemet. So when we're talking nature, it's saying unity with God, unity with nature. There's a oneness that's there. And you see, what happens is the unity with nature is what? Is our breath. It's the breathing. It's the spirit that inspire, expire, inhale, exhale. That's that connection, which we call symbiosis, the relationship with the plants and the trees, that the God force that is created, that is unity with nature, the very first thing. So unity with God. Then it's unity between the self and nation. Then it's development of character, development of social responsibility, and finally the development of spiritual power. Now, in the story of Osera Set, or as I like to say, a set and set, because that's the word set is the division, a set of cards, a set of tools, a set of almost anything. We use it today in our language. So with that set, the idea of the set, we have completion and division. And so the completion is what we call ma'at. That's the whole thing. The division is what we call isfet, because we're in, I'm in bits. I'm just in bits. Brother Andrew, the fact I couldn't get online, I'm in bits, man. I'm totally in bits. And my head's spinning. I'm out of balance. We're not in ma'at. And so what happens is that whole process of the Setian ethic is divide and rule, divide and conquer. Anything that stops us unifying with nature, therefore, is a property of Isfet. And that we should know. So, for instance, Brother Andrew, can you tell me the significance of the moon time now, today? Can you tell me, Brother Andrew? I hope you're there still. The lunar time. No? Okay. Today is the new moon. It's just beginning now. It's the new moon. Many of us don't track the solar and lunar cycles. So when I say it's getting cold now, so people think it's turned to winter. It's not winter until the 21st of December. These are actual structured times, and that's to do with the solar cycle and the seasons. So not understanding these things, to me, puts us out. For instance, the financial fiscal year begins in March or April 1st. But it begins in March because that's spring. The 21st of March is the spring equinox, 12 hours a day, 12 hours of night. And you see, if we don't know, we can't get into the flow. Therefore, we can't grow. And that's why it's vital that we understand the foundations. When Sister was talking about living in Rwanda and people go to build people's houses, they don't just build a shack above the ground, they have to put foundations in. We have to have a sense that we connect with the earth. And so that was what I wanted to speak about tonight. But this is a very interesting dynamic.
Loving it, Paul.
He says here, mind control. Carter G. Woodson, what did he say? When you control a human's thinking, you do not have to worry about their actions. You do not have to tell them not to stand here or go yonder. They will find their proper place and will stay in it. You don't have to send them to the back door. They will go there without being told. In fact, if there is no back door, they will cut one for their special benefit. Their education makes it necessary. So what did Carter Woodson do? Develop Negro History Week, 1926, which turned eventually into Black History Month in the USA by 1968-69, the time of the Black Power and the Olympics, etc. And then later, 1987, Akiabe Adesebo and the people at the GLC brought Black History Month over here. So history, giving that information about what's gone on. But please, let's get this thing to some basics so we know the natural flow. Because if we don't know the natural flow, we're going to be in trouble, which is what we are. Now, most people when I loved the fight, I was listening to your brother who was on there before. Well, a couple of the rappers who were on there before. I've got my favorite rappers. The guys. Rap, of course, stands for rhythm and poetry. The rhythm and poetry. Rhythm is a property of the right hemisphere of the brain. Poetry, the words, are a property of the left hemisphere of the brain. These brothers and sisters who can rap, I am in all of them. Because me, I can't find words like that. These guys are spitting words over. I'm useless at doing things like that. I've listened to songs for years, and I can't even remember the lyrics of them. Another aspect of my book of dumb. So dumb meaning you can't speak. I can't speak the way that these guys do. The flow is with them. The store of information in their right hemisphere is flowed across into their left hemisphere, and they go there. This is why the ancients were geniuses at putting these dynamics together in the form of symbols. So they had the right hemisphere represented by Ma'at, the nature of the creator called Ma'at, the sister with the ostrich feather on her head, the ostrich that can turn its head 360 degrees and see all, and then actually goes down into the ground, and its head is down to the ground so it can see nothing. I was going to say something bad then. I keep thinking I'm in prison. But you see what happens is that dynamic is seeing up here and then bringing it down into the earth. That's the internal drop. And that function from the brain to the heart, the symbol of Ma'at, that's the function of the vagus nerve in the body. So please make your first note. Get the vagus nerve. Start to look at the properties of the vagus nerve and how it actually operates as the information superhighway in the body, down into the body and back up again. That's the property of why they use an ostrich feather, for that internal-external relationship that's there. The other bird, of course, is the ibis bird. The ibis bird, what's up, man?
Lows and skirts, boy. You're on fire tonight, King. Sorry.
I can't see anything. I can't see anything. So watch this now. Watch this now. The other bird is the ibis bird, the doctor bird with the long nose. And why? What Dr. Charles Finch says. Why they use that symbol is that it looked like the bird was looking inside itself, like it's giving itself an enema. And so therefore, that the way the bird can look in and then look out, look in and look out. So what's that? That's thought, Jehuti. That element that they call the wisdom faculty. But the source of the wisdom is the dialogue across in the right brain with Ma'at. She is the source. That's our mitochondrial DNA. That's the thing within us. That's the root chakra. That's the information superhighway, the DNA helix going up. That's what we've got. That's what we knew. That was the reality for how many thousands of years? But our flow was stopped. Our flow was stopped. Let me show you this. I was down there. This ain't anything for my book of Dawn. I was told years ago it was a sister who was a white Rasta, Polish woman here in Preston. And what happened was she told me, she said she wanted these African colors poster doing that I do. You know, the red, green, and gold. The red, green, and gold, and you got the black there as well. So you see, you got the gold, the sun shining down. That's photosynthesis. It flies down onto the two colors of black and green, the melanin and the chlorophyll. And that's the photosynthesis of the utilization of the sunlight, that sun power. So what happens is that's going on there. Then we eat the plants, the green, or we eat the animals that eat the plants. And so that becomes our diet. But we also have a relationship, that unity with nature, that unity with God is not only the food, but it's also the fact that we breathe in and we breathe out. We breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. And that's the symbiotic cycle that's going on. That's the cycle going. Then it goes into the fourth color, which is red. And the red has to go with the blue to make the purple, which is the capillary reaction, because the red is oxygenated blood. The blue is deoxygenated blood. That's called our circulation. That's our blood flow. That's in our health. That's in our bodies. And that's one of the things that we have to have, the circulation. That's powerful. That's within us. We have to have that thing going on. And so we need that good circulation. So that becomes the fourth. Can you imagine We use African colors, and people going like, these Africans are... That's an introduction to our spirituality. It's an introduction to our science, to the world science, the human relationship with nature. So what goes on is that as we're looking at this dynamic of how we have diet, we have our things going on with that. I said, look at this. One black man invents traffic lights. And what are the colors? Red, green, and gold. With the black as well. Left a message there. Every time I look at a traffic light, I'm going, there's a black achievement. And it's a reminder of our relationship in nature. Stop, go, get ready. Does that make sense? Stop, go, get ready. So you see, when I'm looking at the brothers and sisters who are flowing with the poetry, the rhythm and the poetry, that relationship that's naturally and the way that they can deal with things, I go like, boy, who's my favorite? Ice Cube. Well, thank you, man. Brilliant. Ice Cube. So when I want to think about power, the way that he drops it, power. But when I want to think about the teaching, it has to be Guru, the late, great Guru. But you see, those guys now, they're old school. They're old school. Oh my gosh, I was watching this group Coast Contra and this young brother called Eric Jamal. And I went, what? You see, I was working in the prison with a brother who had actually done quite not a good crime. He was involved in something that was highly negative. However, when there's a part of this, one of the raps and Eric, the group is tight, the twins and the other brother, and then they get round to Jamal. And then he goes on 2 speeds, man. He goes on a calm that he's like, so, you know, and Brother Andrew, when you talk, oh my God, you start talking the mathematics with the young blood who was there rapping, whatever, and that, oh gosh, the syncopation, the lyrics of that little child going with that, and it doesn't matter what he's saying. It didn't matter if you could tell that.
Come on.
But then when I said Eric Jamal, he was there, he goes, God damn, I don't know who I am. And he just puts up another part. I went, wow. And the lyrics that he drops when he picks up, that's exactly what this brother had been talking to me about. Doesn't know who I am. Not many role models in my fam. Yes. And that's what, and he ends up doing some really, really kind of, but man, these young bloods coming through, I'm smiling every day. Because, yeah, we hear about the knife crime, we hear about the shooting, we hear about all that. What about those guys who were putting the lyrics over, that who are living a life? Those who were just going and getting the qualifications, those who are getting there. Let's hear about them as well and give credit to that. Why is it the only kind of news? North, east, west, and south news. The only news that's given is bad news. They give the bad news so it permeates us and then brings down our spirit. That's why I don't watch the television. I don't put news on. I filter it through my phone. I don't have that. So you see that this is one of the dynamics that I have to get with, is that I need to really start checking this. Now, look, I've mentioned this thing, the ancient inner flow. The relationship that we have to develop is a relationship within ourselves between our masculine and our feminine. That's why they gave us the word individual. The word individual says in, divide, dual. That's D-U-E-L. D-U-E-L, dual meaning two, not G-U-A-L, which is a fight. You see what goes on? We get educated or miseducated, like Carter Woodson said in his book, The Miseducation of the Negro. We get miseducated into fighting a war within ourselves. That unity, we call the marriage between the hemispheres across the corpus callosum, that unity that we call a marriage or marital, you change that letter I with a T, and it says the word martial, like martial art, war art. They get us fighting with ourselves, within ourselves. And then next minute, we start with this dynamic, oh, we can't hold down relationships. That's because we've been primed to go to war with each other in the martial. So we need these are the ancient inner flow. Now, I don't know if you recognize that the flow symbol that comes out of Kemet, There's a flow representing the water. There's a flow representing the River Nile that we have, or the Harpy, the River Harpy. That was the lifeblood of Kemet. Let me tell you this. I'll tell you this now quickly. What happened was I was down there. We went down to Aswan. I've not been to Aswan before. In fact, I've not been to Egypt for 30 years. So now I'm hitting there as a 63-year-old, going down into Egypt, looking around. I'm like wide-eyed, man. I'm looking, as well as the dumb stuff I was doing. Wide-eyed, man. I'm looking at this stuff that I know through the studies and everything else. But then because this sister, this Polish Rasta, had told me that at Elephantine Island in Aswan, that across in the middle of the river, that what's going on, she said that it lies right under the Tropic of Cancer, meaning when you're there, the sun's directly on top of your head. And it was hotter than it was very hot, right? And so anyway, we arrived there in the afternoon, and I said when we went across the river to this hotel on the island, but I said to the guide, I said, "Is Elephantine Island around here?" He said, "You're standing on it." I went, "Oh, okay." So get the phone out, started looking, and then at the south end, is it south end of it? South end of it, I think it is, are these temples. And the temples to one of them is to Satet. And Satet, you must remember, these people unified with nature, were looking into nature and seeing attributes of nature, and that's what they did with their Medunetta, the writings of God or the writings of nature. So the symbols there were coexisting with the natural phenomenon. So what happened was you had Kunum, the ram-headed god, representing fertility, and he has the complementary female nature. But Satet was the goddess of inundation, the inundation that came and replenished that natural cycle, the replenishment of the land, to replenish the soil, to bring the topsoil down. And so some people relate it to the menstrual cycle in women, the cleaning of the womb, if the egg has not been fertilized. And so therefore they said that's why they showed it as a female feminine process, right? Now what happens is, I'm there looking, I go like, wow, Book of Dawn coming up again. This is a Book of Dawn thing. So what do? I'm from north, I'm tough. I'm from north of country. So I'm going to go down. And it was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I said, I wanted to get down, but I couldn't get down around the wall. There's a wall built. The Nubian villages there, and the hotel was this side of it. And you could get down unofficially. But because I was on a tour, I wasn't going to be risking things because I didn't want anything to look bad. Like Andrew was saying before, don't mess around on the platform and give the platform. I heard the way Andrew said it. Don't you dare, mate. He was like that. I did. And if you felt intimidated, I felt intimidated anyway. So what happened is, I said, right, I'm going to go. And so I said, right, I'm going to go down and get down to this temple of Satet and whatever. And so I tried to walk it down. I think it lasted about maybe 45 minutes or something like that. And then it was like I said, it was hot. And so I said, listen, just settle yourself, P. Go back to the hotel. Go in the morning. Went in the morning. What do I find there? What stopped the flow? What stopped the flow? What do you stop the flow of a river with? Of a river? You build a dam. What stopped the flow of the River Nile? The Aswan Dam, opened in 1902. And the engineer who built the Aswan Dam, which is miles down the river from Aswan itself, what did this guy do? The guy built a house at Elephantine, right there, his backyard, were the temples of Satet. This person knew exactly what he was doing. Exactly what he was doing. He built, and then so this back garden was the temple of Satet, and he knew. So watch this. It's a power position. That position on the thing is a power position. Across the road is the winter palace of King Farouk, the last Egyptian king there. That Winter Palace now is the old Cataract Hotel. That's the hotel where Agatha Christie wrote the story, Death on the Nile. She wrote it in that there hotel. Death on the Nile. The house on the island represented the death of the Nile. He's a murderer. Blood is on you. Listen, man, he knew exactly what they were doing. And what happened from then? The Nile no longer has the inundation. The natural order where you had the hippos and the crocodiles and all the natural thing, they're all behind the dam. There's nothing natural going on in that River Nile now. And you see me, I was looking, I said, this is some dark purpose that these people, what happened to our flow? Well, watch this. That's what you call the age of the dam. The age of the dam from 1902. Who opened it? Who opened it was the Duke of Connaught, the head Freemason from England, hence the Connaught rooms down in central London there. The Duke of Connaught came himself, came and did it. And so watch this. I was looking at this, I said, damn, this is something else. The age of the dam, or damage. The damage was done. The damage was done. The stopping of the flow was done. And you see, that's like our history. What do you put on a canal to raise and lower the levels? You call it a lock. They call it a lock. So the idea is to contain, is to restrict, is to stop the flow, the natural flow, the God flow that lies within us. I'll tell you something, the things that I've been learning over the last 6 years, because I've gone through divorce and gone through, oh my gosh, man, I'm saying, why did I not follow through on certain things? Why did I not do this? Why? Put a B on the word lock, it says block. And then put a, so watch this. Just this last week, people celebrating, commemorating the conference in 1884, and then the treaty in 1885, the Berlin of the division of Africa. People, oh yeah, the division. Let me tell you something you need to think more on, is a frigging division of time. Because in 1884, over in Washington, D.C., they had the Meridian Conference in the center there. That's why Meridian Hill Park is there. And let me tell you how this, if you go to Tony Browder's tour of DC, and they've got the levels of the waterfall going down. And do you know what they've got at the base there in the pool? They've got papyrus, and they've got papyrus and the lotus blossom, the representation of Upper and Lower Kemet. They got them growing in there. They borrowed, that's why Tony called his tour Egypt on the Potomac, because they borrowed all of that information. They borrowed that information. They've utilized it. What do you call that thing now when you don't give credit to you don't give credit to your sources academically?
Plagiarism.
Plagiarize the hell out of stuff. And then have the audacity, oh, Egypt's not in Africa. If everybody says that to you again, tell them to go down to the Albert Hall, and across the road's the Albert Memorial, and the four corners of the Albert Memorial, one of them's dedicated to Africa. And guess what? There's a pyramid, there's a pharaoh, there's an Arab, there's a Bedouin, there's a young brother with locks, etc. Tell them to shut up and go down and sort their own monuments out, if that's what they believe. It's that kind of foolishness that they get away with. But what's this? I turn around and say, we can get to this thing now. What day is it today? What day is it today? Tuesday. What does Chew mean? What does Chew mean in Tuesday? Do you know? Or you're going on to the high knowledge and you don't know your basics? Chew is the Norse god of war. Chew, that's why in French it's Mardi or Mars Day, the Roman god of war. Tomorrow's Odin's Day, Wednesday, Woden's Day. Thursday, well, if I'm talking the Irish, I'd be saying, well, tomorrow's a Thor's Day. So Thor's Day. Friday is his mother Freya's Day. Saturday, Saturn's Day, the Roman god of agriculture. Then you got Day of the Sun, Day of the Moon. All those are so-called pagan days that this particular society that goes about pagan this, pagan that, backward this, backward that. And they're using those days of the week. Is it go into the months of the year now? We're in November. No, Nov means 9. It's the 11th month. Dec means 10. It's the 12th. Get these basic things in. Teach your children. Learn it alongside your children. All those basic things. You're going on about, oh, highfalutin. Get your foundation in. What's it? I remember from church what the wise man built his house upon the rock. The wise man built his house upon the rock. And the house on the rock stood firm. But the foolish man built his house on the sand. Yes? Like the sands of time that they have in an hourglass. That's fluid and whatever. But you can't try running in sand. I used to be very fit when I was a young man. I'll tell you, the worst session I ever had was running on sand dunes over in Liverpool. But over that side, Southport, Ainsdale Sands. Running on those. I'll tell you, British, was it hurdle squad session? I wasn't that good, but I was training with them. And I tell you, you don't get purchase. You can't get your footing. You can't get your footing in there. You can't possibly do it. That's why I love the fact when a mother and son comes on and that son is behaving in an African traditional way, away from the European scope of education, which disables our children, making them wait until they start to earn. Because look at the word L, put an L on earn, it says learn. Every time you say the word learn, you recite the word earn inside of it. Our children are meant to be doing that, thinking about how that they're going to be providing for themselves. I remember my ex-wife doing some research down in West Africa. There was a 4-year-old working on a night market selling bread. A young boy who was about 11 came. She said this boy came with a grubby note. And this 4-year-old child didn't even look at his mother. He just said, not that note. Refused to take it. What did it say over here? Oh, how oppressive. That child, oh, he should be just playing. Let him play. Power to you, young brother who's selling, if you're there still. Power to you. And power to your mother too. And anybody else is going to be doing those things. That's innovation. You have to teach. Oh my gosh, sorry, don't get me started. If I get onto that thing, let me get onto this one now. You see, what happens is we need to learn brain. We need to learn about the brain. More importantly, we need to learn about the heart, because it's the heart. My name is Obinna. Obinna means the heart father. Obi means your heart. But as I did a session before, check it out on Andrew's website about the word Obi. Obi is your heart, your wish, home and kindred, chief, lineage, soul, spirit, mind, and shrine house. The Igbo, I tell you, genius, IGBO, the widespread Igbo peoples of West Africa. Forget all that stuff about that border that was drawn between the Germans and the British, and the Germans and the British and the French and all of that. Go to your culture, your ancestry, your history. That DNA is in you. Your mitochondrial DNA, that's your mother's lineage, is right inside you, waiting to be awoken by your practices, to say hello to it, to say hello to your mitochondrial DNA that lies in you. That's why the new version of the timeline I've done. I was talking to Tony Browder. I said, how do I improve the timeline, Tony? I said, I have to improve. And he said, you don't pay, his words were, you don't pay a mustache on the Mona Lisa. I said, but I've got to improve it. It's got to get better. I've got to do it. And he said, put something down about DNA on there. All the way down from the front cover to the back cover is a DNA thread representing our mitochondrial DNA, that which goes back to the beginning of all time. Even my mother, who's European, had to loop back round into Africa by that one monogenetic theory. So all them people who would say, I'm not African, I'm not African. Your shortest life on the planet invented by someone else. That's why on the new version of the timeline, I've got the logo for AfricanAncestry.com, AfricanAncestry.com. But what I'm saying to you is that you must learn about the brain, because that's what they're attacking. That's what they're tricking. That's what all of this stuff. Remember, do you remember that thing called the pandemic? Do you remember that? What the hell's happened to COVID? Where's it gone to? Where's it? It flew out last year. And then Vladimir Putin, who deserves a Nobel Prize for doing it, chased COVID away. So what's happened to all of that? How short is the memory? I can't get this thing through, man. I don't believe it a lot of the time. But you see, let me tell you this, that, could you take this note down? It's called the Cooper Color Codes. The Cooper Color Codes by Colonel Jeff Cooper. Colonel Jeff Cooper was a devout racist. refer to black people as baboons. And what they are, the Cooper color codes, are states of vigilance for firearms usage. So for instance, when you're walking around totally oblivious, you're in code white. When you step up and have a state of like relaxed vigilance and you're walking around the day to day, that's yellow. And let me tell you this, when I'm in my own house, I'm on yellow. You get what I'm saying? I'm not, that white of like being oblivious, I'd have to be either smoking, drinking or something to get to that state. But I see people walking down the street in that state of white, looking on the mobile phones like, not looking around and seeing what's going on, walking into the roads and all of this business. So what I say, it goes white, then yellow. Then if you detect something, you go to code orange. Code orange, something's happening. You have to be looking about what I'm going to be dealing with. And then the next one, if you have to act, if you have to draw and do whatever, if you have to act, you go to code red, right? Code red means you've detected something, you're taking action. US Marines said, we're not stopping there. We got code black. That means how do you perform under fire? What you're doing when it's actually interacting there. So let me tell you, I'm not talking about walking around paranoid or anything like that. What I'm talking about, when I'm reading information, when I'm getting information, I use the Cooper color codes, my states of vigilance, especially when online, you can get all kinds of nonsense, right? You can be getting all kinds of nonsense online. And so I have to have states of vigilance where I take it. I also, because I know about this thing, this brain, the way the brain operates, I also table things. Certain things I don't allow in. I used to work as a doorman, believe it or not. I was a choir boy first. But what happened was I became a fighter and whatever. And then later I started doing security work and everything else. So what goes on? I got states of vigilance. So when I'm reading, I'm going to be like saying, you're not coming in. Your name's not on the list. You're not coming in, mate. See how I do it in a southern accent when I do that one. Your name's not on the list. You're not coming in. So I put it on the table. I table it. But I know where it is. I store it there. So then if I hear something, okay, I remember that. I'm going to have to bring that one in now, compare it and contrast it and do whatever I have, get an understanding and let it meet with the information that's there. So can you please do this little exercise for me very quickly? Can you please write down the word learn? Write down the word learn, L-E-A-R-N. Can you write it down again underneath, but leave the letter L off the front? So like I said before, every time you recite the word learn, you're saying the word earn. Can you write the word earn down again, but leave the N off the end? So that should leave you with the middle three letters that say ears. It says ear. How many ears do you have? Write ear down again. So you got learn, earn, ear, then ear again. So what do you do with your ear? If guys, if there's men listening and you said, listen, I'll accept it from you, but not from any sisters, no, that's not happening. Why? Because the number of times, you know, if I was asked, are you listening to me? I'll go like, yeah, you're listening, but you don't hear me. So put an H on the second ear. So you got learn, earn, ear, hear. Then can you write here, like you agree with me, here. So you got here and here. And then ask yourself, what's the deepest form of learning that you do? What's the deepest form of knowing that you do? What do the rappers have to do? You learn off by and put a T on the end of here, and it says heart. So those guys, the rappers, they learn their lyrics by heart. They can spit unless they are freestyling, which another time, that just goes on another level to me. But then, so what happens? You learn, earn, ear, hear, heart. Heart, the first organ to form in the body. The first one, the heart power, the energy, right? That which will be judged against the feather of truth and justice, because your heart has got to be in balance with the heart, with the feather. So therefore, the intelligence, the true inner intelligence lies here in the heart, not just in here that can be tricked. So watch this. Where's your first learning? Your first place you learned was in your mother's womb. That's why I call it the class womb. Sorry, I'm really sorry about that. It's so bad, it's so lame. The classroom, so the first place you learned was in your mother's womb. And how did you learn? You could hear inside your mother's womb. The first thing you heard was your mother's heartbeat, that pulse, that beat, that rhythm. that rhythm, that beat, the first thing you heard was that. And when you came out, where did you learn? Look at that word heart. Then watch this. If you say home is where the heart is, before central heating, where did you gather around? You gathered around the fire in the house, and around the fire is called the hearth. So put an H on the end of heart and it says heart. And that's where we meet the commune of the family, the basics, the fundamentals of community. That's where that is. But you see, Machiavelli came along with his frigging central heating, and then everyone is in their own space now. Instead of huddled in the... So maybe it's just in the north of England where we're like that. Well, because that's why we're hardy. That's why we're so hardy. So watch out, watch out. So watch this, table reasoning. You've got to get through this quickly. You see, the ball represents, the sphere represents the right hemisphere of the brain. A block represents the left hemisphere of the brain. So what happens if you put a block and a ball on a table and go away when you come back? I'll tell you something, you know where the block will be, but that ball could be anywhere. If the vibrations of the table or whatever, someone nudged it or whatever, that ball will roll out anywhere it wants to go. So you see, the whole idea is this, to block, lock, and keep you on the clock. Do you like that? Block, lock, and keep you on the clock, as in a wage on your wage, and when you earn, you have to clock on, clock off. If you're on menial work, etc., basic standard work, they have to keep you in that left brain thinking. You're easier to control. And that's the game of the education system over here. And so that's why I'd love to be able to show you certain things here about the games that's gone with history. I'm just going through this. By the way, like I said, the Meridian Conference, 1884, need to look at that more, because what they did, it made Greenwich prime meridian 0. These are imaginary lines, very highly scientifically done, mathematically calculated, all these things. So 15 degrees equals 1 hour. So if you divide 360 degrees by 15, it'll give you 24. So 24 hours. And Greenwich Meridian, listen to this, Andrew, I hope you're ready to bow in future.
I'm here,
go to Greenwich Meridian, and what does it call itself? The center of time and space. The center of time and space. That I understand from an Islamic viewpoint and other world religions means God. Means God. The center of time and space, the home of the creator. What is this thing? So they're telling me that God lives on a hill in East London. Is that what they're saying? But you see, this is an ability to control the world. Look at that shackle we put on our wrist called a wristwatch. That ties us with a clock on it. The lock, you lock down, you're going to be here at that time, there at that time, whatever. And so it's a very thick, I'm asking you to question some of the very basic fundamental things. So just let me put the last couple of, I'm going to relate to, because what it is, here's a question. I always ask this thing. When you're looking at the brain to show how conditioned you are in the left hemisphere, if I say to you, what is a day? What would your immediate answer be? If I say, what is a day? Did anybody say 24 hours? Because if you did, that's why you're behind, will end up in prison, because that's not the answer to the question, is it? I said, what is a day? I didn't say how long is a day. I said, what is a day? A day, you have to visualize and then verbalize. Visualize, and that's that journey from Ma'at to Chahuti coming across. The visions of all that's been, the Akashic records, or that's been, will be over there. You visualize, you use the visualization, and then what does it say? You describe what the movement is one rotation of the earth around its own axis. If you're a flat earther, do your own version of it, yes? If you're a flat earther. So then how long does it take? 24 hours. What is a month? One orbit of the earth by the moon. Visualize it, then describe it. How long does it take? 28 days. Well, it's actually 29 days, 12 hours and 44 minutes, apparently. But they rounded off to 28 days. Here's a funny one. How many days does it take to create a baby, for women to create a baby? I know the men's role, you know, if you say to a brother, you say to a man, how long does it take to make a baby? Usually you'll find the women say, not long enough. Or maybe that's just me. But anyway, another one from my book. So what goes on if you take the actual gestation period of 40, they say of 40, sorry, I'm getting mixed up now. I've got it all in the PowerPoints and whatever. So they're actually saying 9 months, but that's 9 solar months, because it actually takes 10 lunar months of 28 days. It's 280 days for from the first day of the last period for the baby to come forward. So you see, the trap us over, not on the internal world, they take us into the external world of the solar. That's why generally, if I ask people, I've got a lunar clock above my shrine, you see, I keep tabs to the new moon and to the full moon, etc., etc. Then a year, of course, is one orbit of the sun by the earth and moon. Now, I'm going to wrap up in a second. So what goes on, all the other things like decade, century, and millennia, they are not natural phenomenon. They are quantifications. And they keep us into this quantified, controlled state. So decade, 10 years, century, 100 years, millennia, 1,000 years. So please check that. But watch this. Beyond that, and this is where I really wanted to get to today, is two things. Brothers, I do sessions with brothers many years now, and you know the old expression that she's got the painters in. You know that kind of stuff, that kind of ignorance, because a woman might have premenstrual tension. Because watch this. It's not just the fact they don't know the moon, they don't know the cycle of their wives and girlfriends usually. Well, let me create a piece of interest for you. One of the reasons a lot of guys, if you're a gallist and you're a womanizer, you need to know that, is that you're a woman, if you're with a woman, if you're, sorry, I've got to say this these days, isn't it? If you're in a heterosexual relationship between man and woman, what happens is that the woman will always know if you've been playing away. Why? Because her menstrual cycle will adjust to any of the women that you've been seeing and bringing their energy back home. I don't know if you knew this. Women, so therefore, the standard thing, women in the same house generally or work closely together, cycle together. The cycles join up. It's that power, that creative power of women. The creative power that when that cycle ceases, when they're of childbearing age, is a pregnancy. When it ceases through menopause, that's where the wise women come in, the women of true power who are not tied down to that cycle. They're free to be. But in this society, there's not a space there for that status. So these become very, very interesting things for me. By the way, and this is for my shame, Book of Dumb, a dumb piece of shit I did. What I did, I used to give on my ex-wife, when it was her cycle, I used to buy her a red rose. And when it was time on her, when she was going into, so premenstrual, menstrual, when the menstrual cycle started, I bought her a red rose. When her ovulation period started, I bought her a white rose. And that's not supposed to be a war of the roses. They say premenstrual tension is generally created. There's a book called Alchemy for Women by Shuttle and Redgrove. Alchemy for Women. And it says that generally premenstrual tension is caused by the male wanting to keep the female in a state where they can fertilize them and drag them back. I don't know if you've ever had that. You want to move forward and someone's dragging you back, and that creates a sense of tension. So they say that is one of the dynamics that is supposed to be there. Please remember the balancing act that they did in Kemet, because the feminine inner world was characterized by Osir, hence his body being cut into 14 or 28 pieces. There was the message. Whereas the outward world balanced was the sun disk on the head of a set, the nurturance, the cow's horns. So you see, they were tying the thing in. It's like wearing gold on your left hand, which is the feminine hand, the feminine side, and wearing silver on the masculine side to tie and balance these things in. The ancients did that kind of stuff already. So please, when you get in this kind of dynamic, acknowledgement of these cycles is very, very, very important. And please remember that the lunar cycle is the female cycle. That's supposed to be adjusted. There's a lot of people who are turning around and saying, no, we don't get into that. Now I'm talking the flow. As you know, the menstrual cycle, they call the flow. And so what do? I get the rose, and the rose is a what? It's a flower. Well, that's how we say it in North. It's a flower. No, it's a flower. And that link, that link is that flower link in Kemet and in the East. They call it the lotus blossom, the universal matrix or womb. That is why when you see in Kemet, when the son is born from the underneath, from the duat or tuat, you hear what I just said then? The duat or the tuat of Nut, the lotus blossom comes out from the vagina and the sun rises from it, which is why they call the smell of the vagina today the flora. Right today, they're still using the terms, the ancient terms. So you see, to pay respect, there's two ways. Pay respect to that generative power. Me, I've got two children. I've got a girl who's 31, who's now a woman, and a mother, 32, sorry. I've got a son who's now 14. Both of them are Scorpios, but they couldn't help that. So watch this now. So what goes on their, I'm not with either mother now, but on their birthdays, I buy flowers to respect the role they played in creating the children. That's not even a question. I got to show respect for the generative power of the mother. That's what's there. That generative power of the mother is powerful. Hence the flowers, the flower, the flow has got to be acknowledged. That's the creative flow, not just the flow for the rapper. I'm talking about the generative power of women. So Andrew, I'll go finish now. I'm lying. What I'm saying, sorry, I will finish. So what goes on? Please check out the precession of the equinoxes, the zodiacal prophet. So to understand these vast periods of time that are going on now. So for instance, we keep going, 500 years have been in power, 500, or someone like me, I'll be going 1,500 years because of the Arab incursions and enslavement across the trans-Saharan. So I will actually turn around and bring those in. But mind you, I've got Fang blood. Part of my Igbo bloodline from my father is Fang. And we had certain issues with certain peoples over time. So what I'm saying is, please, we're going from into the age of Aquarius, but we're coming from the age of Pisces. These are periods, I use the time of 2,150 years. I've got them across the top of the timeline. We only start in the age of Cancer on the timeline, that's 6,000 years. The full cycle is 25,800 years, which can infer that the people who brought these ideas forward must have known that the cycle was going way before that. So that means, never mind the last 6,000, 9,000 years, let's get back 50, 75,000 years and beyond, that there's been conscious thought, there's been understanding of nature and natural phenomena. Because what are those ages? That's the rotation of the universe moving round. So they had comprehended and understood all of those things. When the Romans went into Dendera and they built the temple, what did they do? They filled the place with hieroglyphs like you don't imagine, in celebration and admiration for the Kemetic ancient African architecture and concepts of the Medu nature, the relationship with nature. Of course, they went off and did their own thing. But what I want to do is finish with these things. I can't do that one, but there's one word I really want you to know. One word, and please write it down. So I ask you a question. What's the opposite of evolution? What's the opposite word of evolution? Someone give it me, please. Got evolution. What's the opposite of evolution?
Someone said devolution.
Devolution means to distribute. What's the opposite of evolution?
Someone says revolution.
Revolution's above it all. It's above it all. The revolution is the ongoing process of our development. So even though now you get older and your body might be failing, but your mind is meant to keep improving and getting sharper and sharper and sharper. Never mind that you're stepping off because you're retired or something. The opposite word to evolution is involution. And the reason you don't know it is because they don't want to show it. Because they got to keep telling you in this society and culture that things are always getting better, always evolving. So they don't want to tell you about involution. So let me give you some basic involution words and evolution words. Evolution, construction, involution, destruction. Evolution, inhale. Devolution, involution, exhale. The blood becomes oxygenated. The blood becomes then deoxygenated. Expand, contract. Spring versus autumn. Summer versus winter. The waxing moon and the waning moon. The blooming flower and the withering flower. Those are the laws of opposites, which are part of our natural reality. But we only get shown one side of it, like we want it to be summer all year round. Give nature a break. Let it replenish itself. That's what they did, though. If you check it out, when they started with the enslavement of Africans, they were burning the soil. They didn't give a chance to rest. It was only the Africans who rescued that process. And then there was a man, they called him Farmer George, who was married to a black woman, which might have driven him crazy in one sense. George III, who's married to Queen Charlotte Sophia. But that guy was a genius, and she too was a genius. That's why the bird of paradise flower is named for her. That's Charlotte Sophia Mecklenburg. Her home was at Kew Gardens. That's Queen Charlotte's house. They knew about nature, these people, because what happened was they had to innovate. Turnips were put in because they were burning. They used to have to leave fields fallow. A guy called Thomas Malthus said there wasn't enough food being generated in this country. This is 1801, 1801. They were saying there wasn't enough food being generated for the population. They call it the carrying capacity. So what did they do? They started, Thomas Malthus was saying, you've got to reduce the population, not to have sex. You've got to be, why? Is the same people who expanded the population, and at the same time they were enslaving Africans. They were killing their own women and domesticating their own women and exploded the population way out of the natural bounds that they're now trying to talk about and say, oh, well, these things can't go on. They shouldn't be. They were the ones, the same people saying that, the ones who created it. And if you don't know that kind of information, you'll think that all this is some new conspiracy when it's some old shit. That's why one of my favorite films, I've got 4 films, I just looked there. Sorry, Andrew, about it, gone over. So watch this. My 4 films I always love: Enter the Dragon, The Quiet Man, the John Wayne film is in Ireland, The Matrix, but the one that I really do like is Scrooge, the old version with Alistair Sim. And if you ever check that, if it comes on at Christmas, have a listen to it, because what does he say? When he said that when they were trying to get money from him, they're collecting money from him, and for charity. And he said, are the workhouses not in good order? Is the treadmill not working well? And they go, no, but many people would rather die than go there. And he says, best they do it and reduce the surplus population.
Wow.
And that was written 1851 or something around there by Charles Dickens. So you see, that's not new, but you've got to get around this thing of the brain and get your flow back. So so you understand these kind of dynamics. Like I said, evolution leads to involution. Involution is a consequence. It's a natural force. We're supposed to know about that. Please take the book title down, Kabbalion. The Kabbalion. Kabbalion has got the law of rhythm. You can look at the Kabbalion written by the 3 initiates, or you can check Ancient Future by Wayne Chandler. Brother Wayne did a book, Ancient Future, which relates to the Kabbalion. But they have the law of rhythm, the pendulum swing. the pendulum swing that's going back and forth and back and forth. So it goes into the positive time, then it's going to swing into the negative side, and it's going to go into the positive side and the negative side. But they say that the adept person who knows what's going on, the fulcrum at the top of the pendulum, that's where you rise your consciousness to. So when you swing it into the positive, you're enjoying it and whatever. But when you know it's swinging back, you go up and you go and you observe the negative. That's what, if you're adept, that's what you're going to do. I was doing that. I was, thankfully, as a sister called Genevieve showed me this thing. I was doing some work in Amsterdam and doing some timeline work. And after a couple of, I think it was the second day, she said, Brother Paul, she said, do you know a book called The Kabbalion? And I said, well, I've heard of it. I said, I can't remember directly. She said, a lot of what you're saying is actually in that book. I said, is it? Got back to the UK, got the book and driving around laughing, bought the talking book and driving laughing. I'm going, oh my God. And what did they do? The rhythm, the rhythm, the rhythm. That's the rhythm. It's the flow. It's the rhythm. Look at little boy rapping, da 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 da, doing as Brother Andrew is saying, the mathematics synchronize with it, right? But then that's the whole thing. We get into that flow. We get into that rhythm. We need to understand that because we've got to get that ongoing revolution above it all in my art. That's that consciousness, that higher consciousness, not down in this fet. When this fet's going to happen in our personal lives, we've got to get up and observe it. We've got to know it. So watch this. I went to do some life coaching in Birmingham with a brother. Met him for the first time. I was doing it on the phone and went to meet him. And I always remember, I think it's about 3-4 years ago, and it was Christmas time. I used to love Christmas with my family, love Christmas. And then my ex-wife decided she didn't want to be with me anymore. So what did I do? I was like, really, because it's Christmas time. I was driving down to London from Birmingham, and I was like, oh yeah. I said, let me have a look and let me feel what it's like down there when I want to go into that negative swing. And what did I do? I think I cried from, now what was it? It might have been Warwick to the gyratory down in North London. I was bawling like a baby all the way down. And then when I hit London, I went up to the fulcrum. There I was, and I went to the powers of observation. I'm not saying that's a cold thing. I'm saying that you had to feel these things. But this is a practical application of the science. It's a practical application of the science. So please, you got some homework, because if I was able to show you the symbol for the flow, it's like M, M, M. Yes, it's like a standard. You see these things. But then if you turn that upside down, it says www. They even borrowed those concepts from us in the World Wide Web.
Woo!
What to say to you is this. Here's a simple thing. Homework. Go online, have a look at the center, the what's it called, Rockefeller Center, and look for the it's a, what do you call the thing now with small stones that they make, what do you call that thing? The small stones that they make pictures with. Mosaic. It's a mosaic of communication. Have a look at how the flows are. And they've got the central wisdom, the woman. Then there's a man and a woman either side. And they're sending out poetry, music, books, writings, and speaking, and and all these, in the form of these angels are manifesting and carry these things out into the world, which is showing us being catastrophic at either end. But they're saying that that's the intention, that what they're going to do is send that positivity out there. Please look up and research Neith, Neith, the goddess, the nature of God, I should say, Neith. She's also known as Net, N-E-T, Net, where you get network, the internet, www, the flow, the net. So the flow is a natural World Wide Web, which is linking to nature, which is the first of the ancient African education system, the first thing. And my beloved Asa G. Hilliard, the third, who brought the work of Schwaller de Lubitz to the wider African audience. please, I say, have a look at all around those things, because those natures of God are significant today as they were yesterday, before, and will be in the future, because as long as there's nature, that's what the ancient Africans were teaching us about. So it's neath or net. Oh yes, and their symbol, by the way, is the spider's web. So I got to get a website done this coming week. Think about it, man, because a lot of this stuff, not only is it the ancients done it, it's in your frigging DNA helix, waiting to be awakened by your practice. Thank you very much.
Woo! Brothers and sisters, if you're not at home standing on your feet, then I don't know. I don't know. What a masterclass. No presentation to end. And the brother took us on a metaphysical, spiritual, historical, anthropological, mathematical journey, dealing with both sides of the brain. Come on, brothers and sisters. That was it. Yes, Jamie. Yes, Jamie. Jeez. Fire upon Babylon. Fire upon Babylon tonight. We warned you. You're going to learn something tonight. You're going to learn tonight. Oh, that's why I call this brother one of the greatest minds in the UK.
Brother Andrew, can I just say,
yes.
What's my brother called who teaches the melanin?
Brother Leon.
Man, I was up in Birmingham, man, and I watched that young brother drop his science, man. I was like, damn. It makes me feel really good at my age now, where I'm going into eldership, and that these brothers are coming through, the sisters are coming through, and there's no apology. So yeah, Brother Leon, thank you for that experience.
I'll pass on that to the brother, beloved. I'll pass it on to him tonight. That was absolutely amazing. We want to thank you, brother, because the way you teach is not just, based on knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, but brother, as you said, you go into the heart chakra, brother, and words cannot just express it, brother Paul. I'm gonna say this on live air to you, brother. Will you be coming back again? If we saw out your PowerPoint, brother, we need you to come back again. We need you to come back again, brother.
Is that technology, man?
Don't worry, we worked it out last time, but we're going to work it out. Brothers and sisters, would you love Brother Paul to come back again? Let me know, because as the brother was teaching, I said, this is what you call teaching, not preaching. Teaching from the hip, man. Oh, fantastic.
I might be busy doing my book of Dom, putting some more, getting some, but I'm pleased pass on the love to Michelle's husband and son.
We're gonna do that. We're gonna do that, beloved, because what I loved about yourself today, brother, you gave us such a clear.
We're just out in sunny Portugal. I wanted to say, go on, Papa G.
You heard that, everyone. And as brother has just stated, tonight's show was in dedication to our sister Michelle. Brother Paul, in his phenomenal way, weaved. He didn't know anything about this, but he weaved it beautifully into his presentation. I will be sending a clip of this presentation to the family of Sister Michelle. Brother Paul, you done the sister proud, beloved, and I know her husband will be touched by the way you moved, and you done that, beloved. Absolutely.
What's her husband's name again?
Brother Neil.
Neil.
Brother Neil. Yeah, and you know who? I'll speak to you off air, brother. You know one of his good friends, brother. Powerful brother, powerful brother. Brothers and sisters, tonight we heard from our brother. I also call you Brother Paul Obinna, Brother Paul Emmy. Which do you prefer, King?
I don't care.
All right, he told me. That's told me, man. That told me without any shadow of a doubt.
Well, Emma is my surname. My name is Wilson. Emma is my surname, but Emma is my father's name. That was sent back to me by my father, and it means to act. Emma means to act, so it's a small action. Or Obinna is the heart father. So I like both of them. So it's not a.
Beautiful.
It's not really a thing. It's the information that I like. You know, it's the information that's important.
That's the love, my king. That's the love. Brothers and sisters, please, again, salute the brother. If you're at home right now, stand on your damn feet, beloved, and salute this king tonight. Absolutely powerful. Brothers and sisters, let's not forget Brother Alim Kamara. Brother Paul dealt with rhythm and poetry. I mean, it was just beautiful how the whole show linked together, where Paul went into that flow. And we heard the